So we're continuing the sicha of Tafin and Aleph, Pashas Emor, Seif Hey. So in the Sefer Sichas here, it's on page 525. Before I begin the sicha inside, let me just mention that tonight is Chav Ches Sivan. Chav Ches Sivan is the day that the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin arrived on the shores of America in the year Tafshin Aleph, which is 81 years ago. And the Rebbe began many new initiatives in the Fatzis Hamayonis, the three meisters that the Frierdiker Rebbe began with the Rebbe at its helm, which is Mekas Linyani Chinuch, Machne Yisrael, and Kahas Publication Society, and all the other things that the Rebbe then began with bringing really Chassidus, Geula into America, and from here to the entire world, as the Rebbe would say, into Chatzi Kader Atachten, into the lowest elements of the world, including in America as well. Okay, so this, what's physical? Yeah, it is. It's a discussion for another time. I once spoke about it actually over here, if anyone remembers. I once explained what that Inyan means. Al Kopanim, so it's a very special evening. So let's learn a chelik of the sicha here with the Rebbe. 1941, you're right. So we're going to learn here a chelik of the sicha where the Rebbe discusses Geula, and we're learning about this for a while now. And the Rebbe discusses the aleph of the word Geula. Geula and Geula are the same letters. You just have to add in an aleph. And what we learned last week is that the aleph has three interpretations. Aleph means Aluf Shalaylam. The Eibush is the master of the universe. What's the other pshat of the aleph? Aleph also means Aleph Chachachma, Aleph Chabina means that you have to study. You can look deeper into the world and you'll see an even deeper and greater presence of Hashem, more than just the fact that Eibush is the master of the universe. And then comes a third pshat, Aleph is Pella. That when Mashiach comes, Hashem will open our eyes to see wonders in this world. That I've actually brought a fourth pshat in one of the ha'adas that we learned, that Aleph is also the same letters as Oifel, which means a thick darkness. Referring... It's morning. It's not darkness, okay. Referring to the darkness in the positive sense, the darkness that exists in a place by the Eibush himself, which is completely removed of our reality, and therefore for us it's dark. That's positive in the darkness that is in a positive sense. Okay, let's continue inside. The Rebbe applies this back to the Inyan of Geula. Al Pizeh is verstandig der Oiftu from Geula, which is Geula b'Taisus Aleph. Based on all of this, we can understand what is the accomplishment of redemption in the Hebrew word of Geula, which is the word Geula, which means exile, adding an aleph. Is kailol, so this aleph that you insert here includes alle drei inyanim from the Gili aleph. By inserting that aleph, it includes all three interpretations of the aleph in the Aveda begalus, aluf shalaylam, and this is also in the Aveda now, in the time of galus, preparing for Mashiach. Our Aveda has to also consist of these three levels: aluf shalaylam, to reveal that Hashem is the master of the world; olfana, to look deeper as well and see a higher level; and pella, and also to see the wonders of Hashem in our life and in this world. It's only through the Aved Geula, when we bring the Aleph of the Eibishter into the Galus itself, that's what slowly puts together the Geula. Every single part in our life that we slowly extend, that it gets open to the entire world. And you have the three levels here. Now in Galus, we have the ability to reveal godliness in the world, including even the highest levels that we spoke about. There is the lowest level of seeing the Eibishter's interaction in this world, just like a craftsman that creates a piece of furniture. So you see the impact of what he created. Hashem is constantly interacting with the world. To know every living being, every created being should know who creates him, which is the level of Malchus. Then, Gili Shleimus Ha'olfen of Elimud Torah, to reveal by learning and studying Torah, so you see a deeper level of godliness in the world, and that which is Gili Lakush Shalamayla Mabriya Meichin, drawing down the Meichin of the Eibush into the world, which is much higher than this, that the Eibush is just a master of the universe. Biz Gili Haneflois, revealing the wonders Meichin Be'etzem or Keser, which refers to Meichin Be'etzem, a higher level of Meichin, or even Keser, revealing the level of Keser of the Eibishter in the world. All of this is our Aveda today, in the time of Galus. So this haste, in simple words, what this means is, One should not be satisfied with this. Sometimes we see Hashgacha Pratis, or we see the Eibish's interaction to the world, and we're so amazed. And for us, that's considered to be an amazing opening, that we're able to see the Eibish's interaction in the world. But the Rebbe says that's not enough. Durech, so the first level is when a person is in Oistnutz, in the Inyani Eilam, when a person utilizes the things that he has in the world, L'Shem Shemayim, for godly sake, and if de'ehu, to know Hashem in the things in your life. So a person should not be satisfied with this. Even though you may think, no, halavai, everything in my life that I do and I see would be L'Shem Shemayim. Halavai, everything I see and I do would be de'ehu, with the purpose of knowing Hashem. But the Rebbe says, don't be satisfied even with that.
That's the level of Malchus?
That's still the level of Malchus, because this refers to utilizing the Gashmias of the world to reveal in it what's its purpose. Why did Hashem create a table? Stam? So the table should be used for somebody to, it's created to put a sefer on it to learn Torah. So you're utilizing the Metzias of the world that's created for a positive sake. That's one level. But you're not yet revealing a level of godliness that's higher than creation, or a pele in creation. You haven't gotten there yet. When a person learns Torah, Torah is not interacting with the world. Torah is removing and going higher than the world. The main point is to reach to the level of pele, to reveal the wonders in the world. And the flow should be as the Rebbe will explain later. Our main avodah today is to try to reveal the wonders of the Eibishter in the world, which is through learning Chassidus. So before we get there, just to point out what the Rebbe is saying here, sometimes you might think that what do we need Chassidus for? Because if you don't learn Chassidus, so then you could become involved in the materialism of the world, and you see the Gashmias as Iker, and you don't pay attention to Ruchnias. You learn Chassidus, it tells you about the fact that there's an Eibishter, and that the Eibishter creates the world every moment, and so on. So it lifts you up out of the materialism of the world, right? That's why we learn Chassidus. So here, what's the Rebbe telling us? For a Yid to come to this point, that he knows that the Eibishter creates the world, and the Eibishter is the Iker, and to see the Hashgacha Pratis, and to serve the Eibishter L'Shem Shemayim, the Eyu, that you can take from Pirkei Avos. That you can take even without learning any Chassidus. If a person is connected even just to Torah B'chlal, and you're focused, and you know what your neshama is doing here in this world, you should be able to be focused and see Elokos, Ruchnias, and not get involved in materialism to be indulged in things that are not good for you. What did Chassidus come into the world for? Chassidus came into the world for something much greater than that. Chassidus came into the world to give a Yid the kayach to connect to the wonders of the Eibishter. That's beyond human reach, even beyond the kayach that you have in the regular nigla darga of Torah. That's what really Chassidus gives us, something that's much greater. Yeshleimar, so now we could say, as neiser to the Aveda from Limud Pnimiyus HaTorah in Galus. In addition to this Aveda of learning, including also learning Pnimiyus HaTorah, learning Chassidus now, today, even in the time of Galus, werd es aufgetan euch durch dem etzem inyan Yeride von Galus. The very fact that the Eibishter exiles us, and he puts us here in this low place in Galus, this itself reveals a tremendous wonder about what the Eibishter is. Durch Megala sein in Geila dem Aleph, the Kavana El Yene in the Yeride. When we look at this itself, and we ask a question, why is the Eibishter sending us down to such a great Yeride, which is really the essential question that Chassidus always asks, not only regarding Galus, but regarding Bechlal. Why does the Neshama come down to this world? Neshama is sitting in such a high place, connected to the Eibishter, and so beautiful and so great, and the Neshama travels down, level after level, coming down all the way here into this world with all of the pain and suffering and trials and tribulations and challenges that the Neshama experiences in the world. For what? What is it gaining? If that's a question about the Neshama Bechlal, so it's the same question regarding Galus. So to understand why is the Eibishter Bechlal creating this situation, this whole matzav of Yerida of Galus. So there's the pasuk where it says, that on that day when Mashiach comes, what we will see is, and what we will say is, we will have the ability to thank the Eibishter. We'll recognize what the purpose, and not only purpose, but what the great maila of Galus was. And we'll thank the Eibishter ki anaftabi for this that he has punished us, for this that he put us into Galus. So seemingly, in was besteht hier da, auf dem was anaftabi. How could it be that we should thank the Eibishter for this, that he punishes us and throws us into Golus? If you want to say that there's a purpose, or the pashtus, if you learn, if you see what we say in davening, that the fact that we're in Golus is a consequence of Avedis, and because of our Avedis, so therefore the Eibishter separates from us and he sends us into Golus. But you could thank the Eibishter for this. So there's a reason why it happened. It's not for nothing. But where is the source of thanking the Eibishter for such a tremendous Yerida? Can it then fit in? So one can't answer and say, as the Heidah is of them, was steht beim Shachakosat. But maybe the way to understand this pasuk is not that we thank Hashem for the Yerida itself. Rather, we're thanking the Eibishter for what the pasuk says afterwards. It's Yoshev Apcha Otanachameni. That even though the Eibishter gave us all of this consequence, and we deserved it. We deserved it. You didn't deserve to go into Golus. Nevertheless, the Eibishter is such a balarachamim that he has mercy upon us and he's meichel us and he takes us out of Golus. So that's really what we're... A nafta is a punishment. The Eibishter punishes us. Yeah? So in other words, the point over here is that when we see how low the Yerida is, so if we fell so low, so that means there's a reason why we fell so low. We deserved it. And still, even after being so low, the Eibishter takes us out of Golos. He still is Meichelos. So that shows how great the Eibishter's mercy is upon us and how much the Eibishter loves us. That even from such a low place, he redeems us. So the lower you are, the greater you appreciate when the Eibishter redeems you. That's what it would seem like what the pasuk is saying. But the Rebbe says, no. That pshat is not yet enough. Why? Because if you're thanking only for this, that the Eibishter is coming and redeeming us, and he's redeeming us even from such a low place, that's not thanking with a full heart. You can't be thanking with a complete and full heart. Why? If we're only thanking for the Eibishter for taking away his anger, the bit l'shlilef and enough to be that the Eibishter is meichelos and he annuls all of this punishment and anger that he brought upon Yidden. So ultimately, the Yerid itself is negative. The fact that the Eibishter punished us and the fact that he threw us into Golus, this is an extremely negative thing. So could you thank the Eibishter for the Yerid itself? No. So you think to yourself, no. Look how great the Eibishter is. I deserve this punishment. It was so long. The Eibishter still forgave me. But what would have been even better? Yeah. And you would thank the Eibishter even more as what if the Eibishter's mercy would be so great that even after I sin and even after I deserve all this punishment, he doesn't punish me in the first place. Not that he punishes me and then he has rachmanis and takes me out of Golus. What would even be greater is if the Eibishter wouldn't punish me in the first place. So the fun is muchach. So therefore, the Rebbe says, if the pasuk says that when Mashiach comes, we thank the Eibishter, so the thanking is b'shleimus, and therefore, as the Eidah is dafka oiv dem v'sanaftabi. When Mashiach comes, we're going to come and see the purpose of the Yerida of Golos. Not only that this Yerida leads to a Gola that follows, but we're going to understand and appreciate and thank the Eibishter with a full and complete heart for the actual Yerida itself. What does that mean? How is that possible? The beer in them. So the explanation for this is it's only through this situation that the Eibishter places us in. When we go down so low in Golus. The Eibishter is punishing us and he's separating from us. It's only this kind of matziv that when Yidden serve the Eibishter in this place, this produces redemption. This is the kind of Aveda that brings about the greatest outburst and to break out of all boundaries. It brings the real redemption. Including the greatest revelations that are going to be by the Geula. The revelation of the wonders of the Eibishter in the world. So only the Yerida of Golos could bring this about. This is similar to the part that it says when you get to the Yerida and Neshama of a Yid in the world, over here in this world, Bechlal. Whatever the Neshama could achieve Lamaila, where it has no Nesiyainis and where everything is clear and there's no Aveda, so the connection to the Eibishter there is on one level, but when the Neshama comes down into Golos, the Yerida itself gives the Neshama the opportunity to work harder and to create a greater revelation. And to greater over here that I was speaking about to be megala wonders in the world. On the Shas mis megala in Geila, the Aleph from Pella, the Kavana al Yainish bezeh. So when one reveals the Aleph, the wonder, and here the point is to reveal that is the wonder of Galus itself. to reveal what was the Eibishter's plan and point of placing us to Galus in the first place. So now we're able to thank the Eibishter for the very Galus itself. We thank the Eibishter for what appears to us to be the biggest tragedy of all times, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, the Yerida of Galus, thousands of years, with all the persecution, with all the millions of Yidden that were killed. V'cholo, v'cholo. And we're thanking the Eibishter for this with a full heart, for everything that happened in the times of Galus. After the fact, we'll realize what this Galus, what the pnimius of the Galus really was, what the purpose of the Galus is. That this Galus itself is Megala, the greatest Pella. So the Pella is two things. The Pella is the Avodah of Galus, that's Mamshech, the greatest Pella. But once you realize that this Matzav of Galus brings about an Avodah that's Mamshech, the greatest Pella, so then it reveals the Pella of Galus itself. That although Galus itself seems to be the greatest tragedy, the truth is, the Galus itself was the greatest opportunity of a Yid to have Mesiras Nefesh and to connect to the Eibishter on the deepest level. That's the greatest Pella of all. That Galus itself is a positive thing. Yeah. I mean, this is something that is the same. I mean, maybe you could learn this here and conceptually say the idea, but that a person's seichel should really accept this. Truthfully, it's very difficult. To come and tell a person that the actual persecution and suffering of Galus, where so many Yidden died, Al Kiddush Hashem, that this itself is something that's good and positive, and that's not good and positive. It's a Pella. This is a revelation of the Pella of the Eibishter. So today, our Seichel is not able to handle this. A human being that's mugbal cannot handle such a concept, B'chlal. But when Mashiach comes, and we'll be able to see things from the Eibishter's perspective, we'll understand how Galus itself produces the greatest Aveda. It produces the greatest connection to the Eibishter. And this is the Eibishter's Pella. This is the Eibishter's wonder of placing us into Galus. So, Al Derech Mashakosov, there's another pasuk that says,
He's saying like that the Pella is on one hand is that you have to avoid the Galus. That in itself is going to bring out a Pella. And then what's next step? You said that after that.
Then we'll realize how the Galus itself was a Pella. It's not only that it's Mamshech, a revelation of Pella, but that the whole Metzius of Galus that Yidden suffered for so many thousands of years, that itself is the Eibishter's Pella. Al Derech Mashakosov, there's another pasuk that says, Oide Shimcha Ki Asisa Pella. I thank the Eibishter's name because of the wonders that he's done. Was das geht if I riches a Galus was a Advar Pella? What is this pasuk speaking about? What's this wonder that we thank Hashem for? It's thanking the Eibishter for the long years of Galus. Was a Advar Pella? It's a wonder. Why does a father that loves the Yidden, that loves his children so much, without any bounds, places us into such a Galus and separates his very own children from himself for all these thousands of years? That's the greatest wonder of all. The Eine Musig, here the Rebbe is quoting a lashon that it says in a Maimer, that the Eine Musig b'seichel klal. This is something that we can't understand at all. Zeu b'michlal b'mufla memchal tidresh. And this as well is included in what the Gemara says, that there are certain things that are impossible for us to understand, and don't try to understand this. If a person tries to understand why is it that Hashem makes such tragedies for Yidden in the time of Galus, this is not something that you'll never understand. Und das Gufe wird noch nimshach begilui. And then when Mashiach comes, we see that it's really Hashem's wonder. And there's something not some positive. It's a wonder of the Eibishter here. B'chinas ki sicha, that the Eibishter does this, Aleph, that the Eibishter does this, and the sicha is the Eibishter, the Aleph, which refers to the Eibishter. So where are we going over here? Next page 527. The Seichel b'chachma. The Eibishter will bring it down that we will be able to understand it. We will be able to understand it and comprehend why the Eibishter did all these things. Which is an unbelievable thing. In other words, when Mashiach comes, this all goes back to the point that the Rebbe said before in the sicha. Once Mashiach comes, B'pashtus he thinks, what happens? Let's forget about the past. Once Mashiach is here, and all of a sudden there's a new world order, and everything is so beautiful, and it's a euphoria. The world is just such an amazing place. So now who cares about what happened in the past? Who cares about Galus? Forget about it. It's over, done with, out. But no, the Rebbe says that the whole purpose of Geula is that you're going to bring the past along with you, that you're able to elevate the past itself. and all that the questions that you had, the doubts that you had, how you talking, like that Mosai, and why all this suffering and all these tragedies for all these thousands of years, you're going to have answers to all those questions. You might say to yourself, once Mashiach comes, who needs answers to the questions? Yeah, now it's good. Now we have Tchias and Mesa and everything. Who needs answers? But the Rebbe says, the Elokus is going to be in his gala then, not only to lift you up to a place where you won't even demand answers, but Elokus will be in his gala in such a way that even over there in that place where you do want answers, you'll have answers. You'll have answers to all the questions you have about whatever happened to yourself and everything in the world.
Otherwise, you're going to have post-traumatic.
But the Rebbe uses the expression a lot of times, what was.
Yeah, no.
So, but he's not what was.
Correct.
What was.
Correct.
That's not what was, but it has importance, and you're going to know.
Correct. That's some point. That's one point to get the chiddush of the sicha. That the whole geula is no, again. But here, but don't make a mistake. The point over here is not to dwell on the past and to think that the matziv of the past in the golas the get attitude has any credibility once Mashiach comes. Something that I was saying. Adarabah, when Mashiach comes, the past will be elevated into the future, and that you're going to be on one hand in the future, and you'll appreciate and you'll see how every moment of the past of Golos was a step leading into the future of Golos, and it was all necessary, and it was part of the Eivish's Pella of the Gola. And every moment of Golos was really a Gola, but we just couldn't see it. We didn't chapsach what it's about. Dafke durech der Aveda behizgabres evim choshech haGolos. So when a Yid serves the Eibishter and you use all the might and the power you have to overcome all the darkness of Golos, Kutman to the Shleimus Agilif and Pnimius Atayra, Begola Mitzvah Shleima. It's this Aveda now, the time of Golos, basically serving the Eibishter, the fact that a Yid is alive today in 2022, after everything that happened to Klal Yisrael, and after all the Nisanis that we have today, living today in the Gashmias of the world, and the Yid is alive today, and this Golos is still serving the Eibishter and still davening 3 times a day with a minyan, it's the biggest pella of everything. Our Aveda in Golos today is Pashat a wonder. So this Aveda of Golos and this kind of darkness, that we still serve Hashem, and we still say Baruch Atah Hashem now, this is the Aveda, which is a wonder that brings about the revelation of the wonder of the Aleph, the Pella of the Gola Sida. Rebbe's mitzayin here to this goes on later. Okay. Yeah, that's the Nikud over here. Okay, let's learn a little bit further. Another few.
Specifically because today there is no Gilui?
Today in Bechlal Golos, yeah, but
for that reason.
Correct. Yeah. Sivav, let's go a bit weiter. Another few lines over here. Vibal the Gula Mitzvah Shleima kommt durch Mashiach Tzidkenu. Who's the one that brings the actual Geula? So Mashiach is the one that will usher in the redemption. It's verstandig, as euch in Mashiach seine Faran die 3 Yanim in dem Aleph von Geula. Everything that was said here in the Sicha regarding what Geula brings about in the world. There's the Aleph, the Aleph Shalaylam, the Aleph which is Limudat Teira, and the Aleph which is Pele. So these are 3 layers. These are 3 levels of Geula. So those 3 levels of Geula, Mashiach himself, which ushers in redemption, and we look in the Rambam, and he tells us what's the qualifications for Mashiach, who is Mashiach, and how do we identify him. So if you look at the qualifications of Mashiach, we could see how Mashiach himself includes all these 3 details that there are in the Aleph that happens when Mashiach comes. So what does it say about Mashiach? Okay, we'll start this over here. We're going to leave it for the questions. So like this, we'll keep you in suspense till next week. So what does the Rambam say? As Melech HaMashiach is mi Beis David u'mizera Shloimeh. Mashiach is a descendant from David HaMelech and also a descendant from Shloimeh HaMelech. Move on. So seemingly the question is as follows. Das was schreibt mi Beis David. The fact that the Rambam tells us that Mashiach is a descendant of David. Wie schreibt in Sefer HaYad. So this the Rambam says in Sefer HaYad. So in Sefer HaYad, with the Rambam paskins about who Mashiach is, he just mentions the fact that he comes from David HaMelech. When the Rebbe quotes that he also is a descendant of Shloimeh HaMelech, that comes from a different place. That comes from the Rambam writes this in another few places, in Pirush HaMishnayos, in his Sefer HaMitzvahs, but in only in Sefer HaYad. Sorry, in the Sefer HaYad though, the Rambam does not mention that he has to be a descendant of Shloimeh HaMelech.
But the one thing was that David HaMelech had 17 wives. Hashem was only one of them.
Correct.
And Dafka through her is Shloimeh HaMelech.
Correct. Okay.
So it can't be the other children of David HaMelech.
Is the far. So in the Sefer Ayad, the Rambam doesn't mention this. He just says mi Beis David. Is the far was by Beis David is Ikra Malchus. The whole concept of kingdom amongst Klal Yisrael is primarily by David HaMelech, even though there was kingdom by Shaul HaMelech, and that you find places that even Moshe Rabbeinu was referred to as a Melech. Vayehi b'Shuren Melech was on Moshe Rabbeinu, and the Rambam also tells us Kivin sheNimshach David. Once David HaMelech was anointed to be a king, Zocha b'Kesem Malchus, he merited to take the crown of kingdom in Klal Yisrael. V'harei Malchus lo lebanav ad elam. And the kingdom that there is by David HaMelech continues for all future generations. There's no kingdom of any other lineage besides from David HaMelech once David HaMelech was anointed as a king. So therefore we understand that if Mashiach is going to be a king, he must come from David HaMelech. Not because there's some kind of a specific qualification that Mashiach is going to inherit from his ancestors from David HaMelech. Nothing to do with that. Any king in Klal Yisrael from David HaMelech, all future times, any king has to be a descendant of David HaMelech. Okay, so that we understand. Malchus Beis David, hey Ma'im Dem Laila. The kingdom of the house of David, that's the kings that rule over Klal Yisrael. Aber, the question though is, what's the hint and what's the significance of this, that Mashiach, out of the children of David HaMelech, has to be specifically from Shlomo HaMelech? Why and why? What's the reason for this? There are other ways that you can be a descendant from David HaMelech and still be mi Beis David and qualify as a Jewish king. You don't have to be dafka from Shlomo HaMelech. So what is the significance about being also a descendant from Shlomo HaMelech? Yeah, that's the question here. So the Rebbe will explain the significance of Shlomo HaMelech. Shlomo HaMelech was known for his great chokhmah. As we'll see, the Rebbe will explain the Indian. Okay.